Good morning. I'm Reverend Karen Gygax Rodriguez, and I welcome you to this online worship service for Sunday, November 24th, 2024. I'm the pastor of the Federated Church of Green Lake in Green Lake, Wisconsin. And if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, you are able to welcome one another to this worship service this morning, and I would love it for you to take a moment to do that, to introduce yourselves to one another, to welcome one another. In a little bit, we're going to be asking what we're grateful for this morning. We'll ask for our prayer requests as well. This is the week of Thanksgiving. And in my life, I've always had so much to be thankful for. There's one really big thing that I'm thankful for, and that is going to be part of what we share today during this worship service. Today we have a very special service. I will not present, I will be a part of this, but I won't be sharing as much as I will be interviewing my own brother, Dave Gygax. We are our only siblings, and we're it for each other. And my brother has a very special story to tell. And he's not one to call attention to himself. He's not one to share the story that he's going to share with us this morning. He's a successful businessman. He runs his own business, owns his own business, and continues to run his own business after all that he has been through, which we'll share in just a second. But because this is the week of Thanksgiving, I reached out to my brother and I asked him, would you be willing to share the story of your new heart? And what do we mean by that? Well, my brother literally has a new heart. He has a new donor heart that he received in May of 2023. And he is about a year and a half past having received that new heart. And I was thrilled when he responded, yes, I'd share my story. So on this week of Thanksgiving, a very personal worship service this morning, a personal one to me. I'm not quite sure what blessings it might yield in your lives, except to hear the story of someone who's had decades of illness, decades of compromise for his heart, and finally arrived at a point where it was either have a heart transplant or probably not even be here today as we are talking today. So I hope and pray that as you hear his story, it might give everyone listening a sense of encouragement. And we certainly hope that it expresses gratitude for the willingness of people to be organ donors and to be willing to give the gift of life even when their lives have been cut short. It's really hard to wrap our minds and hearts around the gratitude that we have for this, but we do have gratitude for this. And I wonder, as we share in gratitude, what gratitude we have amongst all of us who are listening today. So we always begin with gratitude. And I'm going to share a couple things. I'm going to share that I am incredibly grateful for being able to attend another retreat. They call them retreats, but they're pretty intense and completely involved teaching opportunities at the Transforming Community with Ruth Haley Barton. It's a wonderful program. If you're interested, ask me about it. But I had a retreat this past week, a 2.5-day retreat, and it was probably the best one that I've attended so far. And so I'm grateful for that. Then I am grateful for everyone who was able and willing to check on their driver's license or wherever they would do it, that they would be an organ donor. And grateful that my brother is still with us to be able to share this story today. I wonder what you're grateful for this week as we come into this week of Thanksgiving. Feel free to share that in our chat area this morning. Feel free to affirm one another in our own lists of gratitude today. As we do that, let's share together in this affirmation of gratitude that we share every Sunday, and probably have it by memory by now, but pay attention to any of the phrases that today get your attention or stand out to you. Lord, you are an abundant giver. There is nothing that I have that you have not given me. The way of your kingdom is the way of generosity. Help us to honor you with our resources. Free us from the deceit of riches. Lead us on the path of generosity. For your glory, Lord, for the abundance of our own lives, and for the sake of others. Amen. And this morning, as we come to a time of praying together, I wonder what prayer requests you might have, and I invite you to put any prayer requests in our chat area as well. These are some that have come through our church this past week, beginning with Judy, who continues to need our prayers for protection and for recovery, and is someone who herself has experienced a bone marrow transplant, and grateful for the hope of healing that transplant has given to her. We want to remember the Milwaukee Mission School and Don Galster, who is its principal, on the recent death of 2 students to gunfire, 2 separate incidents, but the school is in a time of grieving and very concerned about the manner by which these 2 students died. We want to pray for anyone who's been hospitalized recently. We've had a few church members who have had procedures this past week, and we continue to pray for their recovery and for their continued better health. We've had knee replacements and ablation surgeries and just basic hospitalizations due to congestive heart failure. So we've had many things, and we want to hold these people in our prayers. For safe travels for everyone during the season of Thanksgiving. And as we come together as families, those who are grieving losses, maybe this is the first Thanksgiving without someone this year, and we want to hold you in our hearts and hold you in our prayers. For those who have received organ transplants, they're a miracle, they're a gift, but there's a challenging road ahead as they recover and as they try to keep themselves from any even minute infections that could cause something that is seriously systemic for them. And we want to give thanks and pray for the people who consent to give their organs, to give someone else life, should their life end. And we want to pray for our country on this transition time. And we want to pray for our world and all that's going on in the world. So as we gather these prayers together, and as we gather together the prayers that you might have put in our chat area, and also those prayers that remain private to you, let us come together this morning in a moment of prayer. Lord, we are grateful this morning for the harvest of gratitude that we bring to our worship service. And we are grateful for your attention to what we ask prayers for. We ask that you would bless us today, in that you would notice us and notice what we need, in that you would affirm us, and in that you would give us life, that you would nag us, notice, affirm, and give, that you would nag us with your blessing, that your presence would be palpable, that your peace would rule in our minds and in our hearts, and that our gratitude for one another in community of faith would feel strong. Lord, each one of these requests that we've presented before you and all those that we've kept to ourselves, we ask that you would hear and receive. And we do this, Lord, in the name of Jesus, who invited us when we pray to say, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. And this morning I am going off the lectionary readings. In other words, I haven't chosen one of the lectionary readings this morning. I've gone back to this beautiful reading from 2 Corinthians that teaches us about how God uses us even in our times of brokenness. And so this morning we are going to be sharing 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verses 5 through 12, and then 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verses 16 and 17. We do not preach about ourselves. The subject of all our sermons is Jesus, the Anointed One. He is Lord and Master of all. For Jesus' sake we are here to serve you. The God who spoke light into existence, saying, Let light shine from the darkness, is the very one who sets our hearts ablaze to shed light on the knowledge of God's glory revealed in the face of Jesus, the Anointed One. But this beautiful treasure is contained in us, cracked pots made of earth and clay, so that the transcendent character of his power will be clearly seen as coming from God and not from us. We are cracked and chipped from our afflictions on all sides, but we are not crushed by them. We are bewildered at times, but we do not give in to despair. We are persecuted, but we have never been abandoned. We have been knocked down, but we are not destroyed. We always carry around in our bodies the reality of the brutal death and suffering of Jesus. As a result, his resurrection life rises and reveals its wondrous power in our bodies as well. For while we live, we are constantly handed over to death on account of Jesus, so that his life may be revealed even in our mortal bodies of flesh. So death is constantly at work in us, but life is working in you. Now may our Lord Jesus Christ himself and God our Father, who loved us through grace, gave us eternal comfort and good hope, comfort your hearts and strengthen them in every good work and word. So may God bless these scriptures to our hearts and minds and understandings. And now I'm going to introduce to you my brother, and we're going to share his story in interview style. And I hope it is a blessing to you.
Sadness from wherever you've been. Come broken hearted, let rescue begin. Come find your mercy, oh sinner, come near. Earth has no sorrow that heaven can't heal. Earth has no sorrow that heaven can't heal. So lay down your burden, shame. All who are broken, lift up your face. Oh wanderer, come home. So lay down your hood, lay down your heart, come as you are. There's hope for the hopeless, for all those that have strayed. Come sit at the table, come taste the grace. There's rest for the weary, rest that endures. Earth has no sorrow that heaven can't cure. So lay down your burdens, lay down your shame. All who are broken, lift up your face. Oh, wanderer, come home. You're not too far. So lay down your hood, lay down your heart, come as you are, come as you are. Fall in his arms, come as you are. There's joy for the morning, oh sinner, be still. Earth has no sorrow that heaven can't heal. Earth has no sorrow that heaven can't heal. So lay down your burdens, lay down your shame. All who are broken, lift up your face. Oh, wanderer, come home. You're not too far. So lay down your hood, lay down your heart, come as you are. Come as you are. Come as you are. Come as you are.
So while I'd like to claim John as my brother, John's not my brother, but here now is the interview that I did with my brother, and I'm grateful for the beautiful song that John just shared with us. So this is my brother Dave Gygax, and I'm going to ask Dave a few questions and have him share his response to these questions. So thank you so much,
My pleasure.
Brother Dave, for being willing to share. This is the week of Thanksgiving, the week of gratitude, and I'm grateful for lots of things myself. I'm grateful for your heart transplant, but I'm grateful that you said yes to sharing some of this with people watching. So would you tell the people who don't know, who are first hearing this, a little bit about the history, what got you to the point of needing a heart transplant, and go back as far as you want?
Okay. Yeah, it goes back several decades, and there's a medical condition affecting cholesterol in the circulatory system that created all of the heart issues. So the time of discovery, I was probably 5 or 6, do you think?
I think you were 6, yeah.
Yeah, 6 years old, and Mom had it, and her brother Wayne had it, and he died from it, and so we don't exactly know where it came from. We only knew that there was like a 1 in a million chance of having this condition. There was not much known about it at the time. So I can remember Mom standing in the kitchen and complaining about having jaw pain and shoulder pain and things like that. And I don't know the chronology, but she went in and got a blood test. I think it was before that. Had high cholesterol, hyperlipidemia. And then so naturally then we went in and got tested. I had it, you didn't.
Yeah.
So at that time they didn't know too much about it, so they figured you should eat less cholesterol, you should replace all the fatty foods with non-fat foods at the time, and they were completely wrong about that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But at the time they had a couple of meds. They had this, it was called Questran, and it was this powdered form, and you mix it in water or juice or something like that, and it doesn't dissolve. It's like drinking wet sand. So I was 5 and 6 years old drinking that 3 times a day. I was taking mass quantities of niacin.
Yeah.
And the theory there was it helped to raise the HDL, which is the high density lipoprotein, which goes through and scrubs out all the bad plaque, the low density lipoproteins. So I was taking mass quantities of that. The side effects of that were it feels like you have a sunburn from the inside out, and so we were told about the correct diet to eat, which wasn't correct at the time.
Yep.
To take these medicines, and it was a long journey of that, and never getting on top of the hyperlipidemia.
Yeah.
It was in the 300 and 400 range, and sometimes up to 500. It didn't really matter what I ate.
And you were really active too.
And I was active, and the issue at the time was going to the doctors and the doctors explaining, and then they would huddle off in the corner, with Mom, and they would be talking about stuff, and they would come over and they'd say, you're not eating the right foods, you're not taking your meds when you're supposed to, and I'm doing all of this.
Yeah.
And thinking to myself, if you knew Mom, who
Right.
is, like Judge Judy, backed off a little bit, you know that I'm doing exactly what I'm told. I have no choice.
Yeah.
So something's not working right. So that progressed for a long time. I got up and I went through, college. They started to figure things out. They figured out that there was a missing protein that gets delivered into the bloodstream from either the liver or the kidneys, and that in combination with how the body reacts is what causes hyperlipidemia. And at the end of the day, it really had nothing to do with the amount of cholesterol you ate. Your body produces cholesterol. It's a biochemical imbalance. And so I had my first heart attack from that when I was 28.
Yeah.
And what was interesting is I can remember Mom talking about, they did a stress test on her. They had her walk up and down just these basic therapy stairs, the wooden steps, 3 steps, up and down, up and down, up and down. They did an EKG on her, and they sent her home and said, "You're fine." And then she had a massive heart attack.
Yeah.
And
When
at the time,
we were, you were maybe 12 or 11.
yeah, I was young.
Yeah.
I was probably younger than that.
Yeah.
And heart transplants at that time, they were non-existent. You just didn't do it.
Yeah.
So at the time, they gave her, I think they gave her 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, it was yes.
So they told her that she had her LAD was what caused her heart attack.
Yeah.
Left anterior descending, and so massive blockage and scar tissue after that. And so they told Dad, she's got 2 weeks, and any day after that's a bonus, and she lived another 40 years, 30 plus years.
30 years.
Yeah, and went through several iterations, but so fast forward from there, I was 28, and I was out, I was active, I was jogging like 2 miles a day. We were in Ohio at the time. And I noticed that when I was running, my left arm was getting really weak, so I would put it in my pocket and I would keep going, and I couldn't seem to get any endurance. So I went to Cleveland Clinic, and they checked me out. They put me on the treadmill and did the thallium stress test. So by now, the medical technology has improved significantly. 2 weeks later, after not hearing back, I had a heart attack on the way to the airport. So it was in the right coronary artery at the time. And what was interesting is when I got a hold of the doctor, he said, the results of your test, you showed a little oxygen deprivation in the left ventricle, but we didn't worry about it because you're on the treadmill for like 25 minutes and you're a young guy and all that kind of stuff. So I had the first heart attack at 28. And we had just, we just moved out to Ohio. Deb and I were just newly married. We're just starting new careers. So all of the major stressors occurring at the same time.
Yeah.
And so after that, again, trying to stay on top of this lipidemia, I wasn't getting anywhere. Ultimately, had about 4 heart attacks, and progressing with that, then the ejection fraction of the heart was decreasing.
Yeah.
So ultimately, what caused the heart transplant is the scar tissue and the ejection fraction and 3 ablations, and I started developing ventricular tachycardia.
Mm-hmm.
And so they put an implanted ICD, internal cardiac defibrillator / pacemaker, and it sat dormant for 4.5, 5 years, and all of a sudden I started to get shocked. Mm-hmm. And so then I went in, had an ablation down the wall of the left ventricle, came out of that, got shocked some more, and it just wasn't working. So after the 3rd ablation, they said, ahead of that, they said, we're going to give you an evaluation. I went in for a week at St. Joe's, or Luke's. Yeah. And at the time, they said, you're bad, but you're not quite bad enough. So we're going to kind of keep you at the outer markers. So the benefit of that at the time was thinking, okay, I'm 58, 59 years old, and I guess I'm not bad enough, yet. So that's good news.
Yeah. You also had bypass surgery and stents, too.
Yeah, I had several stents. Ahead of all of this, I had several stents, triple bypass surgery, and so a lot leading up to the point where we were putting stents inside of stents. So there's a point of no return where you just can't go back anymore. Yeah. And I was basically there when I was, with the tachycardia, the VT, and getting shocked all the time. So I went in, I had the evaluation. They said, we're going to keep an eye on you for a while. And it was getting pretty rough at that point. I was having a hard time standing up. I was dizzy all the time. There was a few times when I was, standing up, passing out because of the meds and things. And finally I got shocked. There were a few bad episodes ahead of that, but I got shocked again, and I went in, and they said, we're going to keep you in for a week and put you on the list, because we could either do a 4th ablation, which we don't think is really going to do anything for you at this point. So we're going to put you on the list and see what happens. Fortunately, I've got the universal donor blood type, AB negative. So, and there's a very stringent criteria for matching donors to recipients. And I was very lucky in that basically 6 weeks to the day from when I went in to get on the list, they called and said, we've got a donor. Yeah. And so it was an interesting phone call. It was 8 o'clock on a Monday morning. Mm-hmm. And the caller ID said St. Luke's, so I knew what it was because I didn't have any doctor appointments. Mm-hmm. So I answered the phone. They said, hi, Dave, how you doing? Been trying to get a hold of you for a little bit. Take your time and get down here in 4 hours. We have a heart. And that was it. So yeah. It was an entire day of prep before that, and then went in for the procedure. So it's interesting because you call and you talk to the doc, and he said there are 4 scenarios of receiving an organ that you can receive from a living donor. That means they're basically on life support, and they cannot sustain life without life support. So you are getting a living organ. Or the next is somebody comes in that's deceased, who's an organ donor. Mm-hmm. So you get a deceased organ, and then one of those 2 scenarios with or without hepatitis, mm-hmm. or some other virus infection. So I was very fortunate in getting a healthy living donor heart from a guy that was 47, who had high blood pressure and stroked from high blood pressure. And that's, to date, that's all I know. So that's kind of the events leading up.
So you joke and say that you're not really like 60 now, you're only 49, right?
I'm 49.
Yeah.
I'm using my donor's age. Yeah.
You're using your donor's age.
But it's valid because I haven't felt this good. And I mean, I was I didn't realize how bad I felt until I started feeling good. I mean, I got acclimated to it. Was getting really rough there.
Yes, it was.
At the end of that.
Yep. Yes, it was.
And I just thought, you know, the days are numbered here. There's a point at which, for the number of times that I've gotten shocked, and the number of ablations that I've had, at some point, I'm not going to be able to restart the heart. Yeah. It's just not going to happen. So they put me on the list. They have a priority of 1 through 6. 1 meaning that you're in the hospital on life support. You're not getting out of there until you get a new organ. 6 being you're in need of an organ transplant, but there are several priorities above you. And so they had me at a 4E. And so I just thought, automatically, this is going to be a 2.5 to 3 year wait. And it was 6 weeks, and that was, very fortunate. So
I think so, because I'm not sure that it's a year and a half now, right?
Since a little over a year and a half. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not sure, given everything that was going on, that you would be with us.
I highly doubt it. Yeah, yeah. It was really rough.
Yeah.
There was a couple of really bad nights, but the one in particular was I got shocked awake. I was in a dead sleep. It was probably around midnight. So, you and Phyllis and Debbie were all on the call list, and so I got shocked awake. So I was sitting on the edge of the bed, and I could feel what the function of the ICD is. It tries to overpace the heart, and then back it down so that it recovers naturally into rhythm. And when that doesn't work, then it charges and shocks. So I started getting shocked, and I was getting shocked about every 90 seconds.
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting on the edge of the bed, and I'm thinking to myself, I have to sustain consciousness long enough to make a phone call to get some help, because it's the middle of the night. So I texted you guys, and shortly after I texted you, I got shocked again, and my phone flew out of my hand. So now I can't find the phone because it's pitch black.
Yeah.
The only thing I can see in my room is I'm sitting on the edge of the bed. I can see the VCR light, or the cable box light. So I knew approximately that the light switch, I had to get to the light switch to find the phone. So between trying to get from the edge of the bed to the light switch was about 10 feet. I passed out. I hit the ground. I hit my head. I was bleeding. And then I came to, and I said, okay, I'm still alive, and getting shocked again. And I thought, okay, what I need to do here is calm down. I need to turn the light on, and I need to find the phone. So I crawled over to the wall, pulled myself up, hit the light switch, and started crawling around for the phone. Got shocked some more, passed out some more, came to again, found my phone underneath the dresser.
My goodness.
So I was able to reach under there, get it, then called, and you guys were, texting back, and I'm not getting it because I'm unconscious. And, so then, call 911, so I did that, and then I needed to get from upstairs to downstairs without falling down the stairs.
Yeah.
So I slid on my back down the stairs and, just went down both, and then crawled my way into the kitchen, and I thought, okay, I'll just wait for and then by that time, Phyllis had arrived, and then actually the cops arrived before the ambulance, and Phyllis could hear the ambulance going around the neighborhood, and then she was calling 911 again and yelling at them for getting lost.
Yeah. You could laugh about it now. It wasn't so funny then.
That was at the point where I just thought to myself, I am probably not going to make it through the end of this episode here.
Yeah.
At least, what I need to do is be able to get in touch with anybody so that they know what's going on and they can get here and do something, and then it's just a matter of writing it out.
I remember that night because I remember you saying that you weren't afraid of dying, or you weren't afraid of death, but this dying sucks. I remember you saying something like that.
Having been resuscitated 7 times over the course of all of this going on, legitimately, it's the being dead part is easy. The journey to death is not so much fun.
Yeah.
And when you realize you're approaching it, your mind and your thoughts and your mind and everything, they alter a little bit, but that is not the fun part.
Mm-mm.
And one of the thoughts is that I'm thinking to myself, this is really bad, but out there somewhere is somebody in worse shape than I am.
Yeah.
And they are fighting harder than I am to keep going. And So, I owe it to that person, even if I never meet them ever. Don't know who they are. I know some people who have cancer, for example, and they're fighting through that.
Yeah.
And it's just somehow you find some inner strength and you keep going and you go until you can't go anymore.
Yeah. That's a beautiful part of your personality, I think.
The bullheaded stubbornness of quitting.
No, but as you said, thinking about somebody else, and there's a solidarity with the fact that there are people suffering, and about that. You know what that's like.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what was the experience of the transplant like?
Yeah.
And if you don't mind.
So at that point, I'm completely ready for it.
Yeah.
I'm not scared at all. I'm looking forward to it because now I have a pathway forward. So I'm, a little nervous. It was funny because I got the phone call and I walked in the back and I was talking to my machinist. Then I went into the office, picked up my phone. I came back out and I said, I gotta go now. I'm going to get a heart transplant. And he totally stepped back and said, "Are you what did you say?"
Had you told them by that?
Everybody knew I was on the list, but
okay.
Nobody really, we all kind of, it was just another day.
Yeah.
And I said, I got to take off and go down to Luke's to get a heart transplant. And he was shocked. And I said, see you later. And he's like, how can you be so calm about this? I'm like, I'm looking forward to it at this point. I'm ready to go. So Phyllis got a hold of the attorney to come down. We had enough time between all the blood tests to update the will, get all that stuff out of the way.
Yeah.
Finish up my emails and just basically tell everybody who needed to know that I'll talk to you in a week or so. And I went down there, and so they did a bunch of tests, and that was the day before. The next morning they woke me up, and you guys were all there.
Yeah. Well, and that's because it was a living donor who then you had a little bit more time. It wasn't...
Correct. Yeah, because they had it all planned. Yeah. The whole process of the transplant, the harvesting and the receiving. There's doctors on the harvesting side. There's doctors on the receiving side. There's a heart doc. There's a lung doc. There's a kidney doc, liver doc. All of these. I mean, there's just a monumental amount of people involved in the sequencing of which organs to take first and where they go, and to match up the nationwide list of who's getting what. It's a huge process. And so it takes a day or so, and
if they're on life support,
if they're on life support, yeah. So the morning of, then they came. The transporter came up to get me. I took off. I made some joke on the way down. I can't remember what it was, but you guys were laughing.
Yeah, you're good at the jokes.
And,
the macabre kind of jokes.
So,
I don't remember what you said either.
So then, I'm in. There's a couple other people, and you're in this room, and it's the pre-op room, and then Dr. Feelgood shows up, the anesthesiologist, and he's like, "How do you feel?" And I said, "I feel great." And he goes, "You want to relax a little bit?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." And so by that time, I'm getting wheeled in the door saying, give me the hemostat. I want to try it myself. At that you don't care who does what at that point.
Yeah.
And then I don't remember anything after that until waking up. And the first thought waking up was, oh, I guess that went well. I'm still here. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Did you feel anything waking up, or did you? I mean,
the first sensation I had was I had a ventilator, so I had the tube in my throat. I couldn't talk.
Yeah.
So I'm writing words on, I'm just like finger writing words on the bed, and David was there, Deb was there, you were there, and it was coming out of the anesthesia, and it was tough. It was tough, but it was a new day,
Right. Nice.
So it was good.
Yeah. And I don't know how it registered with you, but it was like 10 days of trying to come out of
It was a longer than normal process.
Yeah.
They had a little difficulty getting the new heart restarted.
Yeah.
They were telling me, and so I was having AFib.
Yep.
After, and I could tell everybody was standing outside. You're in ICU, and everybody's standing outside the room, and the nurse. There's three people looking at the monitor with these grimacing looks on their face. And
Yeah.
So I'm waving him in, and I'm like, if you're going to stand there and, show me the face, tell me what's going on. I need to know what's going on.
Yeah.
Well, you got a little AFib here, and it's nothing to worry about, and it's, typical post-transplant stuff. And so we battled with that for a few days, and ultimately they took me down and cardioverted me. That's where they, you get shocked, you get paddled, but they knock you out for that. And then I came out of that, and after that, everything was good, and then it was a standard recovery after that. So
I just remember when the one doctor who, after it was 10 days, I think it was, and I don't remember which doc it was, who said, "How do you feel about getting shocked again?" And I think it was disappointing, right?
Because, it was, because one of the big reliefs coming out of it was they took the ICD out with the new heart, so I don't have the shock box anymore. And there's a lot of anxiety that goes with having that, because I could tell I got to the point where I could tell when the heart rhythm was starting to go out of whack, and I knew it was going to try to pace it out, and then I knew I was going to probably get shocked, and it was very unpredictable. It could happen at any time, any place, and so always the worry of inconveniencing somebody else that has to deal with this, because here I am in a normal situation under normal circumstances, and all of a sudden I get shocked or I pass out. And that happened a couple of times where I was at a social event, and people are telling me they just picked me up off the floor because I went out and I hit the floor. And so I always felt worse about the other people having to deal with what I had going on. I didn't want to inconvenience anybody, but luckily I was always around some good people, and wasn't that big of a deal. It was really nice getting rid of that thing.
I bet it was. So what is it like when you think about the fact that you are getting another chance at life? What's it like to get a gift of a heart?
Yeah, and it's a common question, because people ask, do you feel a presence of the person that was, that you received? I don't know who it was. I have no knowledge, and I've drafted a letter that I can send to the family, and they can just decide whether or not they want to respond. But there's always the question of, do you feel different? Is your personality different? Is your attitude? Is there anything that carried over from the other, the donor? And my typical response was, I'm pretty sure the guy, wanted a new motorcycle, because I'm, wanted to go buy a new motorcycle. But it's, coming from having an ejection fraction of 18%, that's the heart function. That's the amount of blood your heart pumps out and moves oxygen around your body. For so long ahead of the transplant to right now, I knew instantly coming out of there, I had an EF of, it was near 60%. It was 58 to 60%. And though I was recovering, and there's the process of recovering, which is long, I could still tell this is much better than it was. To the point right now where I feel so much, it is completely different. Going into transplant thinking, I'm not going to retire. I'm not going to live long enough to retire. I don't have to worry about retiring. I just want to make sure that I, spend as much time with the people I want to, do the things that I want to do, live the best life that I can, because my timeline is short, and I don't know what that endpoint is going to be. Hopefully it'll be quick. And now coming out of that and recovering and feeling as good as I do now, it's unlimited. It's like it's like a whole new life. It's it's being able to get on the bike again and ride the bike and not worry about getting too hot, getting dizzy, having to stop, and not wanting to fall over. Now it's like just go down the road and enjoy it. I'm stronger than I was, a lot stronger than I was. I can work out. I can do those things without getting winded and tired. And it took some time to get there, but every day is still every day is an improvement. Every day is stronger than it was, and it's significantly better. A long time ago, when they first started doing organ transplants and heart transplants, you always have this image of somebody getting this and then they're on life support, and they're using the technology just to stay alive, just to get another day, and they're really they're not living a normal life. Whereas the realization now is you can live a better and normal life, And I don't talk about it. I don't I really don't like talking about it. And people that know about it, the comments that I get are typically, if we didn't know that you had this, you couldn't tell.
Right.
Because you just do everything that you want to do, and a lot better than actually you did before. But no one would ever know that you had this happen to you, unless you would say something.
Yeah.
So it's great.
Well, but I am so appreciative you're willing to share something, because truthfully, so it's been 40 years. No,
30 years.
No, 30 years. I'm sorry, 30.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a long time.
It's a long time.
And even you were saying, you noticed some things, like even at 28, and having to deal with all of that medicine stuff. And I remember, like the immediate effects of how that.
Yeah, the niacin,
The niacin and the Questran. And I always felt so heartsick myself that you had to deal with that. You were a trooper from little on, and that wasn't easy for any of us.
And that's a big part of it. If you're a person that has a chronic illness or long-term illness, it's, from my side of it, I think it can be at least as hard, if not harder, on those involved, the caregivers, the support system, your family, your friends, because they are not suffering as you are suffering. They're suffering through it because they want so desperately to be able to do something to make it better,
we want
to
fix
it go
it.
away.
Yeah, we don't want you to have to be dealing with this.
And for the person going through it, it's just like, I want to do whatever I can to feel as good as I can without telling you anything about it, so that you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
When I first had the first heart attack, Mom came down and I felt so bad that she was saying, I feel so bad that you have to go through this. I wish it was me, that you don't deserve this.
Yeah.
And all I could think of from there was, I can't have her feeling guilty about this.
Well, that's a burden on you too, though.
Yeah. And so it was, from there to do everything to just, make it as good as I could for as long as I could.
Yeah. Do you want to say anything about the importance of people considering organ donation? And like, are you an organ donor?
I'm an organ donor. And that was a short conversation. When I first got my driver's license, it was, you put whether or not you're an organ donor. And I can remember talking to Dad about it, and he's like, are you going to be an organ donor?
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, why not? I'm not going to need this stuff anymore after I'm, dead.
Yeah.
And that was about it. But there's the people that are hesitant about being organ donors. There are some religious sects that just don't allow it. The opinion is you pass from this life into the next life, whatever that religion happens to be, and you have to be a whole person in order to be alive in the next life. I don't buy any of that. There are some people who think, and these are the top reasons why people don't want to donate. People think that, if you're in an accident or something and you go to the hospital, they may harvest your organs before you can still have a chance at living, but they're in a hurry to take organs out. And there is so much that the process is so involved that goes into the harvesting and receiving and donating organs that just doesn't happen. It's a conspiracy theory that just doesn't exist. Yeah. And I think those are kind of like the major issues. And if you can get past that and just realize that I'm not going to need this anymore, it's an easy choice to make, and it helps somebody. The number of the donor that and the family that gave me this heart have saved numerous lives. I mean, lung transplant, liver transplant, kidney transplants, and then there's the maybe eyes, maybe skin, maybe other things, but definitely the vital organs. Yeah. Someone, some other people, so multiple people by that gesture get to live a good, better, longer life.
Right. And in your case, a life that you haven't, like you said, you haven't felt this good for a long time.
I haven't. And I had, I never thought I would, see Evelyn graduate college. I never thought I'd walk her down the aisle. I never thought I'd see David come home from being in the Marines. Yeah. And, not that, I wasn't making excuses for it or anything else. It was just getting to the point where I need to realize that I'm pretty close to the end now.
Yeah.
So get the most out of it that you can. And now I don't see any end in sight.
Yeah.
As long as everything goes well.
Yeah.
And there are people that have complications afterwards, and hopefully that won't be the case. Just do what the doctors tell me to do and keep going,
Yeah.
So.
So I want to thank my brother for sharing that story. You know, I do these online worship services, and I can maybe give the appearance of them being somewhat polished, but I'm not a good producer. So we have the full response that he gave to me, and there's so much more of that story. But I do pray that hearing that story is a blessing to everyone. And I pray that as we all continue to understand the gift of life that we've been given and these bodies that we have that are temples of the Holy Spirit, that we treat them well. And when we can no longer use them, that we're willing to share or give life, if we can, to someone else. So thank you for sharing in this very personal story of our family, and I hope that it was a blessing to you. As we end our worship service today, I have just a couple announcements I'd like to share with you. We're going to begin a new Zoom study, an Advent Zoom study on December 1st. It will happen on Sunday evenings from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m., and it's based on the songs of Advent. There's not a whole lot of reading with this, although there is a companion book to it, but there's a lot of reflection and scriptural study. So if you're interested in that, please let me know about that. We continue with the women's Bible study, and I believe they are starting a new study on women of the Bible. So that's kind of a fun topic for the women's Bible study, is looking at the women of the Bible. And if you're interested in that, please let us know. As we come to the end of the year, we are continuing to close the gap on what we need to meet our budget by the 31st of December. And right now, what we need to meet the budget is $45,935. So thank you. We've made some very good progress along the way. And we thank you for the financial support that you give to our ministry. So as we end our service today, I'm going to end with two things, a benediction and then a song. And the benediction is again this scripture from 2 Thessalonians that says, "Now may our Lord Jesus Christ himself and God our Father, who loved us and through grace gave us eternal comfort and good hope, comfort your hearts and strengthen them in every good work and word." God bless you, and we will see you next Sunday for the beginning of Advent.
hope is in your name, for you alone.